In this video, I'll be showing you how to work the tubular cast-on technique used for Lydia 2.0, both flat and in the round. This technique does begin with a provisional or temporary cast-on, so you need both your main body yarn as well as a contrasting color yarn of a similar weight. You'll need a crochet hook and of course your knitting needles. Start with your contrasting color yarn, create a slip knot, and slide that onto your crochet hook. Then before the knitting needle even comes into play, chain a few stitches normally, so yarn around the hook clockwise, and then pull up a loop, yarn around, pull up a loop, yarn around, and pull up a loop. I like to do about 3 to 5 here just so there's a nice little base, and now you bring your knitting needle into action and you're going to be chaining just as before, only now you'll be chaining around your knitting needle. So to do that, hold the working yarn underneath the knitting needle and simply yarn around the crochet hook just as before and pull up a loop. And you can see there's that chain around the needle right here, and that's really all there is to it. Now bring the yarn back between the hook and needle so it's again underneath the knitting needle and you're back to your starting point. So again, yarn around the hook, pull up a loop, take the yarn back between the hook and needle so it's underneath your knitting needle, yarn around the hook, and pull up a loop. Move the yarn back, yarn around the hook, pull up a loop, and repeat until you have the required number of stitches on your knitting needle. Once you have the number of stitches you need, keep the yarn in front and chain a few stitches normally like you did in the beginning. Then you can cut your tail and gently pull it through. So here we have our provisional cast on, and now grab your main body yarn and the other knitting needle. I hold the tail here with my middle finger to help keep it in place, and then just knit into that first provisional cast on stitch as you normally would and continue knitting across. You'll work 3 rows in stockinette, so purl all the stitches on the next row and knit all the stitches on the 3rd row. Once again, turn your work to the wrong side, and the first thing you'll want to do here is locate the very first vertical bar of your main yarn that's at the edge of the work. This is the trickiest part, but if you just follow along this first row of stitches all the way to the edge, it's a bit easier to see and understand. You may need to pull it apart from your contrasting color yarn to better see it, but it's just this strand right here at the edge that you're going to need. You can either pull it out a little bit or place a marker on it to help you remember, and then with your yarn in front, slip your first stitch that's on your left needle, purlwise, and then keeping the yarn in front, pick up that bar that you previously located. Place both of those stitches back onto the left needle and then purl those 2 together. Next, you'll be working with the purl bumps of your main color yarn here along the bottom that are connected with your provisional cast on. The first purl bump can be a little bit hidden sometimes or tucked away, but here it is, and you're just going to pick it up with your right needle from below. Then insert the left needle into the front of that stitch, and then bring your yarn around and knit just like you would knit through the back loop. Then simply purl the next stitch normally. Again, pick up the next purl bump from below with the right needle, insert the left needle into the front, then knit that stitch. Purl the next stitch, and again pick up and knit the next purl bump. And you're just going to repeat that process all the way until you get to your final purl bump. Pick up that purl bump as before, slip the next stitch knitwise, then place both those stitches onto the left needle and bring your yarn to the front so you can purl them together through the back loop to finish it off. And that's it. So now you can turn to the right side of the work and continue on with the setup rows and pull out the provisional cast on at any time. For working in the round, you complete the provisional cast on and 3 rows of flat stockinette just as before. So we have that right here. You've just finished your 3rd or knit row of stockinette, and your working yarn should be coming from what will be your right needle. Keeping the right side of the work facing you, arrange your stitches to join in the round, and you want to be really careful here not to twist them. Next, pick up the first vertical bar of your main yarn, which actually just leads right down into your beginning tail. Place that on the left needle in the proper stitch mount, and then knit 2 together and give that tail a little bit of a pull to tighten. Bring your yarn to the front and locate the first purl bump of your main yarn, which is on the wrong side of the work. And this is going to be a little awkward and tight most likely, but you're just going to pick up this stitch with the right needle, either from above or below, whichever you find easiest. Place it on the left needle in the proper stitch mount, then purl into it normally and simply knit the next stitch on your left needle. Again, bringing the yarn to the front and looking on the wrong side of the work, pick up the next purl bump with your right needle. Place it on the left needle in the proper stitch mount, purl it normally, and then knit the next stitch. So one more time, pick up the next purl bump on the wrong side of the work using your right needle, place it onto the left needle, purl into it normally, and then knit the next stitch. You're going to repeat this all the way around until you come to your final purl bump. When you get to that last purl bump, pick it up and place it on the left needle as before, then just purl 2 together. Then you'll want to place a marker for the beginning of round and continue on to the setup rows and pull out the provisional cast on at any time. You'll most likely have a little gap here at the beginning due to working the flat stockinette rows at first, but you can easily tighten and fix that up when you finish and weave in your ends. So that's everything for this tubular cast on. I hope this video was helpful for you, and if you do have any questions, just let me know.